Get your ideas out into the world as quickly as possible to get real feedback from real people. And along the way, you learn to be prepared to fail and to have the resilience to see every single part of the process as an opportunity to learn and to grow. One of the biggest reasons people give for never starting is that they have no time. But it's not about finding a week. It's about stealing 10 minutes, getting up an hour earlier, using your lunch break to think about your goals instead of staring at your phone. Every little chunk of time counts. Putting an idea into the world is an act of hope. It can be terrifying, I know, but the alternative, letting that idea die inside you, is so much worse. Your happy hustle is waiting. The first problem is right there, right in front of you. All you have to do is begin.
It reduces the risk of failure, and it allows us to build the confidence that will help us keep going. Now, as social entrepreneur, Kirsty helps people on low incomes learn to code. She admits it's hard work, but she loves seeing the impact it's having. She says, "I'll never stop creating because it feels like fun." Having a side hustle involves time and effort, all done alongside your current commitments. But if you start small, work on an idea that excites and motivates you, and build it step by step, you'll increase your chance of success and find great fulfillment in the process. So there it is, the journey from a simple annoyance to a working business. The key message from How to Have a Happy Hustle is that you don't need to wait for a lightning strike of creative genius. Instead, you can learn to spot opportunities in the problems you encounter every single day. You learn to think of innovative ways to solve them. What's so great about this era is that anyone can be part of it. You don't need permission to start. There are no exams to pass. You can learn the skills as you go along. You can make the most of rapidly evolving technology to design your business idea and reach new customers. You just need to start. Take 13-year-old Kirsty Devlin, who started her first business at school in Bolton, England. Helped by her two little sisters, she washed cars until she earned enough money to set up a second business, selling brightly colored wristbands on eBay. Since then, she's always had a side project on the go. She said, "I'll never stop creating side hustles as long as I'm alive." For teenager Kirsty to get going, she asked herself, what can I do with the limited resources I have to make some money? She started small, without spending much time or money. Starting small bypasses the fear centers of the brain, the part that tells us not to even bother trying. Hustling is happiest when both failures and successes can be shared. Chapter 10. The title of this chapter is An Exclusive from the Author, The Era of the Side Hustle. And now something special. Here is an exclusive blink from the author, Beck Evans, covering content that's not in the original book. Side projects are having a moment. With rapidly changing workplaces, many people juggle their gigs, have portfolio careers, and self-identify as multi-hyphens. We're in the era of the side hustle. According to Henley Business School, 1 in 4 UK adults has a secondary business or job that brings in extra income. Though the definition of a side hustle is all about money, that's not what drives people to start one. The research shows that 3/4 of us start one to follow a passion or explore a new challenge. It's this motivation for fulfillment that creates a happy hustle. He was the founder of several incredibly successful startups. He traveled the world lecturing at distinguished universities. But inside, intense loneliness, depression, and anxiety plagued him. This led him to the realization that he had to refocus his life around the things that really made him happy, like time with his friends and family. Having a happy hustle means building a business that works for you. That starts with enjoying what you do and allowing your genuine curiosity to lead you. It also means taking small steps and appreciating the journey you're on. Cultivating a growth mindset will allow you to take failure less personally. Constantly reflecting on what kind of business you want to build will help you stay true to your own desires. Perhaps the most important element of your emotional runway will be the support of your community. That can be family, fellow founders, mentors, online networks, or even your early customers.
Just like an airplane, your project needs enough time and space to be able to take off properly. There are many different models for attracting funding. Apart from the traditional routes of pitching to venture capitalists or angel investors, you can also appeal to your wider community and try to raise funds through sites like Kickstarter or GoFundMe. This approach has the added value of doubling as market research, helping you gather valuable feedback on what users need and want. Financial investment is important, but even more important is investing in your own well-being. Having runway isn't only about having a financial buffer, it's also about having the emotional and mental resources to allow you to keep building your business. If you're externally successful but neglecting your well-being, your startup will not be sustainable. Entrepreneur Vikas Shah now knows that only too well. From the outside, his life looked enviable. He'd made a key marketing error. He was ignoring the fact that his student audience didn't actually read newspapers. Only when he tuned into his community did he hit on the right strategy: targeted Facebook ads at crunch times when students were frantically studying for exams. Sure enough, his user numbers soared. Of course, it's good to remember that growth isn't an end in itself. The size of your ideal market depends on your values and your ambitions for your business. You may prefer to go for quality of engagement over sheer quantity of users. Chapter 9. The title of this chapter is Building Your Runway. Whether you're doing a side hustle on the weekends or plunging into a full-time entrepreneurial role, you will need support to keep going for the long haul. First, you'll need to make sure you have enough money to give your product time to develop and reach the right market. That's known as having runway. But soon, 20,000 of them dropped off, and the team couldn't attract new ones. They frantically tweaked their product to find new ways to appeal to users. 6 months after their launch, they hit the jackpot. They invented a feature that rewarded players for sharing the app with 5 friends. Suddenly, they were attracting 80,000 new users every day, and they kept growing. The key to their success was motivating their core users to recruit their friends instead of just launching a generic mass marketing campaign. So what makes some marketing ideas work and others fail? You can avoid a lot of stabs in the dark by really tuning in to the needs of your specific audience. George Burgess started developing the technology that would become the study app Gojimo while he was still at school himself. He first tried to expand his market by getting as much coverage in traditional media as possible. While that got him attention, it didn't help his user numbers grow. After a period of rest and reflection, armed with greater self-knowledge and experience, you simply need to dust yourself off and begin again. Chapter 8. The title of this chapter is Finding Your Community. Imagine you're standing in the proverbial dragon's den, pitching your idea to a panel of steely-eyed investors. One of them asks the question you've been dreading: how big is your market? It's one thing to have a great product that users like. It's another thing entirely to have a product that can attract a big enough market to be profitable. In order to grow your idea, you'll need to grow your core group of early users and attract a wider audience by finding the right marketing techniques. And just like everything else in founding a startup, this is a process of trial and error. When developers launched the soccer app I Am Player in 2010, an impressive 50,000 users signed on. Armed with that insight, they were able to pivot. They used their existing technology to create a new online marketplace, this one for cleaning services. The service, called Hassle.com, was hugely successful and was eventually sold for millions of pounds. If you approach your own failures with a similar growth mindset, you'll be able to find out if there's a way you can pivot your endeavor in a new, more promising direction. That might mean focusing on a slightly different problem, allowing you to get more specific about your target market. But sometimes none of these efforts are successful, and you'll realize that the best course of action is just to quit. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's very courageous to face reality head-on and know when to change course. Even wildly successful business people like Richard Branson have histories littered with failed ventures like Virgin Brides and Virgin Cola. Like Branson, you shouldn't let failure dampen your dreams.
Failure is so important, in fact, that in their very first week at the prestigious Singularity University, students are given an assignment requiring them to go out into the world and fail as often as possible. Why this fixation on failure? Because people who are comfortable with failing bounce back more quickly. They don't take it personally, and they're prepared to take risks. These are the hallmarks of what Stanford professor Dr. Carol C. Dweck calls a growth mindset. Entrepreneurs who think like that are much more likely to succeed, not because they don't make mistakes, but because they are equipped to deal with them. In 2012, the founders of an online marketplace called Tettle had to admit their startup wasn't working. Despite all their hard work, user numbers just weren't growing. When they analyzed the data, they realized that 75% of visitors to their site were searching for cleaners, a service they didn't provide.
Take the time to listen closely to their responses, as scary as that might be, and be sure to record them. Feedback is a gift that will help you refine your idea. Remember, it's not personal, so the more critical, the better. Once you've gathered all your feedback, you need a way to process it. One effective method is to listen back to your recordings or read through your notes and write down people's responses on Post-it notes. Use their direct quotations so you don't misinterpret what they said. Then, cluster together each key idea that emerged. And finally, write down the main takeaways and the specific actions that can result from them. You've just taken the first step toward refining your idea into something even better. Chapter 7. The title of this chapter is The Gift of Failure. How do entrepreneurs learn to succeed? It might come as a shock, but first, they need to learn how to fail. To sell the benefits of your concept to an audience, it's essential to practice your pitch on whoever you can. Your pets, your family, your friends at the bar, whoever will listen. Pay attention to the visual cues from your audience. Are they engaged, nodding along, or do they look like they want to nod off? To keep their attention, keep adapting your pitch. Make it as enticing and concise as possible. Remember that effective pitching is as much about how you communicate as what you communicate. If your story is compelling, but your shoulders are slumped and your head is bowed, the audience isn't going to buy what you're selling. Luckily, body language that projects confidence can be learned. Practice standing tall, plant your feet, and look directly at your audience. You'll not only look more confident, you'll start feeling more confident too. Once you're ready, start pitching to everyone who you think could give you valuable feedback. For example, the author offered a free online course to motivate people to write every day. When that generated a good response, she created a paywall that allowed people to extend the course for a small fee. When that was successful, she knew she was onto something. If users are truly excited about your product, they will be prepared to pay for it. That's the ultimate test. Chapter 6. The title of this chapter is Master the Pitch. If you've got a great idea, it's not uncommon to keep it to yourself. You worry that someone else might steal it. But keeping it to yourself can be destructive. It causes you to miss out on valuable feedback that could help you improve your idea. Daunting as it might be, if you want to create a successful business, you have to learn to communicate your ideas to others. And to do this convincingly, you need to master the art of the pitch.
When you pitch, you share your vision as simply yet as concretely as possible. Your aim is to persuade.
Your clients can taste all the flavors and admire your artistry, but the MVP won't take you too long to make. Once you've created your MVP, you need to test it. That might mean professional user testing, where you hire a researcher to observe people interacting with your product. Or you could share a simplified version of your product online and invite responses. If you want to open a shop, you could begin by testing it out as a market stall or a pop-up. Testing your MVP in the real world is a vital step. It moves your idea from a concept to a product that your target user can actually interact with. Of course, the whole point of testing is to identify problems as soon as possible, tweak your idea, and then test again. So don't be discouraged if things don't work at first. Once you have a workable MVP that people respond well to, you need to take it a step farther. You need to get your target users to put their money on the line.
Of course you have. The books are now a worldwide phenomenon, but they nearly didn't even make it to print. J.K. Rowling's first book was rejected 12 times. Finally, a publisher gave a few chapters to his 8-year-old daughter to read. She was so desperate to know what happened next in the story that he knew the book had the makings of a hit. It's essential to test a product with the right target users if you want to know its real potential. Doing so saves you valuable time and money. After all, there's no point in creating something unless your target audience actually wants and needs it. But how can you test a product if you haven't really created it yet? You do it by developing a minimum viable product, or MVP. An MVP is different from a prototype because it actually needs to function. For example, if you're a baker who creates extravagant wedding cakes, a successful MVP could be a small version of your most elaborately decorated cake. It's not a single plain sponge.
Then you need to write a concept statement. This should include the name of the invention, the problem it addresses, the solution it offers, and most importantly, the benefit it will offer to its users. Once you've sketched out the rough answers, practice condensing your statement to the length of a tweet. This will help you create a very concise and specific elevator pitch. If you're having trouble articulating the product's specific features, try sketching it. This can help you get specific. Now that you have the essence of your solution, you can create a prototype. This does not have to be fancy. It can be as simple as a drawing, a paper and glue scale model, or even a Facebook page outlining your idea. The point is to take the first step toward materializing your idea. This helps you test it, and it allows other people to finally understand what you want to do. Chapter 5. The title of this chapter is The Right Test. Ever heard of the Harry Potter series? For example, if you want your business to deliver craft coffee to office workers, then useful criteria might include things like, can you realistically keep the coffee hot? You also need to consider the competition. Might a bigger enterprise like Uber Eats muscle in on that corner of the market? This is an exercise in cold-heartedly killing your darlings until you're left with an idea that is both exciting and workable. Now that you've got your solution, it's time to develop it. There will be many reasons to put this off. You may feel you don't have enough time or money to start. You may feel you don't know enough yet. But those are just excuses. All you really need to begin is the willingness to start somewhere. The first thing you'll need to do is name your creation. Brainstorm until you find a name that's catchy and memorable. Don't worry, you can change it later, but a working title is a great way to make your project feel more real. This will lead to robust debate, which is the entire point of the exercise. Working together in this productive, generative way will allow a lot of high-quality, conflicting solutions to emerge. All you'll have to do is pick the best of them. Chapter 4. The title of this chapter is From Idea to Action. There's nothing quite like the rush of invention. Along the way, you might find yourself getting really attached to the ideas you generate. Ultimately, though, you'll have to choose just one. That can be tough.
It means you're going to need to change modes. You need to start analyzing each idea with a critical eye rather than a creative one. To get some perspective, make a list of the criteria you'll use to evaluate your solutions. Make them as objective as possible. Design them to assess whether your idea will actually work as a business.
Like a muscle, our capacity for divergent thinking can be strengthened. But how? Well, one of the best tools is brainstorming in groups. This helps you generate multiple ideas, and when it's done in a supportive environment, it helps you avoid your own inner critic taking over. Google Ventures uses an exercise called Crazy Eights. It's brilliant. First, participants each fold a blank sheet of paper into 8 panels. They're then given just 5 minutes to sketch 8 different solutions to a given problem, one on each panel. The time constraint is key. It helps you bypass any doubts you might have about your drawing skills. But one of the best ways to encourage divergent thinking is to work with diverse teams. Start by posing a problem to a group of people. Have them generate as many solutions as possible on Post-it notes. Then discuss them. Group the common ideas together and use that as a launch pad to generate novel, even wild ideas.
The truth is that there are many possible solutions to virtually every problem, and in order to find the best of them, we need to be creative. We need to generate as many ideas as we possibly can. Comparing these solutions sharpens our thinking and makes us less likely to cling to just one of them. Working like this, allowing our minds to roam free and explore solutions that might not be obvious at first, is called divergent thinking. It's divergent thinking that enabled the global design agency IDEO to come up with innovations like the first computer mouse. IDEO invests time in exploring every angle of a problem and every possible solution. They use unconventional methods like taking lengthy field trips. To an outsider, the value of these trips might not be obvious, but the folks at IDEO know that the 80% of their time that seems wasted is exactly what enables them to generate genuinely innovative ideas in the other 20%.
They were describing the behavior they aspired to, not their actual behavior. So to gather more accurate insight, you have to start observing people's behavior out in the real world. Get into this habit. Start with field work. Go to a public space and just watch people. Then try more targeted observations. Ask people who match your persona if you can watch how they go about their day, at home or at work. Take detailed notes. Write up your observations as soon as you can. This research is absolutely vital. It will help you get to know your target audience and create a product that they truly need, not just one you imagine they might. Chapter 3. The title of this chapter is The Idea Factory. Too often, we think that for any given problem, there's a single perfect solution just waiting to be discovered. The trouble is, that kind of thinking stifles creativity. It makes problem solving so much harder.
And assumptions can fall prey to your own natural biases. The best way to avoid this is through good old-fashioned research. Many successful companies do this. Amazon, for example, encourages its employees to go out and chat with the people who use its services. It keeps them connected to the real world of the user. If you're not sure how to interview people, remember this. One of the best tools you have is the open-ended question. These give people the space to talk about what really matters to them. But be careful. What people think they do and what they actually do are often very, very different. Researcher Paul Jervis Heath once asked people about their spending habits. The responses he got were very mature, very responsible. But when he asked the same people to keep a diary of their daily expenses, he noticed that their actual behavior was wildly different from what they'd reported. They weren't lying, though. They were just fooling themselves.
So, you've found a great problem. You're excited to work on it. Fantastic! But in order to develop it properly, you need to find out how that problem actually affects other people. A great way to start is by creating a persona. This is a model of your invention's target user, and it's especially useful if your target market is significantly different from you.
The author, Beck Evans, once visited a team of software coders. They were all young men, and they were designing a game for middle-aged women with children. To make sure they were designing with the user in mind, they developed a persona. They called her Barbara. They tried to put themselves in Barbara's shoes. They constantly imagined what her life might be like, what her preferences would be. And it worked. Instead of their original ideas for adding gunfire and explosions to the game, they decided Barbara would prefer fireworks and popping champagne corks. Of course, a persona is based on assumptions. Of course, not all problems are created equal. You can create an inventory of your own annoyances, from burning your toast to finding Excel spreadsheets impossible to navigate. But how do you know which one to focus on? Well, choosing the perfect problem is both systematic and intuitive. It helps to step back and evaluate each one against objective criteria. Ask yourself, do I have the expertise to tackle this? Is there a big enough market for a solution? Be honest, but ultimately you have to trust your gut. If a problem genuinely excites you, if it lights a fire in you, go for it. Once you've chosen your problem, the next step is crucial. Write a problem statement. This is something that sums up the problem and who is affected by it in the most specific way possible. The more detailed you are, the more clues you'll have about how to solve it. It gives you a valuable roadmap for the work ahead. Chapter 2. The title of this chapter is Finding Your People.
A British businesswoman was getting dressed one morning when she accidentally ripped her favorite pair of jeans. She was mortified. Replacing them would mean hours of tedious, soul-crushing shopping, and she couldn't just buy them online because every retailer uses different sizing. It's impossible to know what will actually fit. And in that moment of frustration, an idea was born. She realized this problem was shared by millions of women. That realization led her to start an innovative website dedicated to helping women find clothes that actually fit them. Her problem became her purpose. And it's not just current problems that provide inspiration. You can also look to the past. That's exactly how Anurag Acharya found the inspiration for Google Scholar. He remembered how hard it was to access academic articles when he was a student in India. So he created a search engine that specifically looks for academic publications, benefiting scholars all over the world.
We'll cover everything from strategies for finding that brilliant idea to the secrets of pitching it to the world. And stay with us, because at the end, you'll hear an exclusive message crafted by the author herself with insights you won't find anywhere in the original book. So, take a deep breath. Let's begin the journey. Chapter 1. The title of this chapter is Your Annoyances Are a Gold Mine. We spend our lives running away from problems, don't we? Who wants to sit and dwell on everything that's wrong with the world? No one. But if you're looking for the next brilliant startup idea, you're going to have to change your relationship with problems. Believe it or not, they're actually the best place to find inspiration. Finding great ideas means becoming a problem seeker. It means analyzing your frustrations as you go about your day, the little things that trip you up at home, on your commute, or online. Consider this story. Have you ever heard stories about startups and felt a pang of envy? A wish that you could be one of them. So many people dream of leaving their day jobs, of striking out on their own, but they get stopped by a single powerful doubt that they just can't come up with a good idea. We see stories of successful founders, and we think they must be geniuses, struck by some kind of divine inspiration. But that's a myth. The truth is, anyone can come up with a good idea. Anyone can build something meaningful. You just need to learn how. You need to hone the skills of creative thinking, of empathy, and of resilience in the face of failure. Welcome. You're listening to How to Have a Happy Hustle by Beck Evans. In the next hour, you'll find a step-by-step guide to creating your own side hustle or startup.